My name is Devon Morris, and I'm currently completing an orthopedic residency program with Emory University in my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. My interest in physical therapy started when I was really young. I actually have played soccer my entire life. I first developed an interest in athletic training when I was in high school. And then I started playing football for my high school football team my senior year. And I was hit in one of my last games and I had to go to physical therapy for a couple of injuries. And so that was when it was solidified that that's what I wanted to do. So I chose orthopedics because I knew I wanted to work with athletes and I wanted a really in-depth understanding of orthopedic conditions to then apply that to an athletic population. I knew I wanted to work with athletes. So understanding how athletes work, I knew I wanted to get the athlete out of their team setting and into the clinic and really spend some really quality time with them outside of the pressures of working with their teammates and getting back onto the field immediately. From a patient perspective, that's how I worked with a physical therapist. And I still use a lot of those really valuable things that I was taught in physical therapy because I had that individualized time with them. So that's why I chose orthopedics instead of, say, a sports residency. So I was pretty heavily involved with the APTA when I was a student. I served on the National Student Board, and I was the first student member of the PTJ editorial board. So I did a lot for APTA, and the leadership skills and the networking that I did is totally invaluable. It's one of my biggest takeaways, really creating those connections and building a really strong support system so that, I could stay motivated to continue helping my patients, stay engaged with the most current research. I do plan to hopefully pursue that again after I finish residency and start my career officially. And, whether that's at the national level again or if it's at the state level, I think it's important to stay up to date, on what's happening for the profession politically and, continue to provide a really supportive kind of governing body for other physical therapists so that we can continue to support each other so we can support our patients. I completed my DPT at Ithaca College in upstate New York. So they recruited me for soccer and they had the 6-year accelerated program. So it was a really good fit, even though it was really far away from home. I've been a PT for about 7 months now, and I've been a resident for about 7 months. So I graduated, and then 2 days later, I started residency. I went straight into residency because I knew that there was more for me to learn. We're trained as generalists in DPT school, so we can go into any setting. So I wanted more guidance and really strong mentorship to kind of help me fill the gaps that I felt PT school couldn't really, provide since they wanted us to be able to be very versatile. So that was why I decided to go right into it after PT school. The key thing I looked for in residency was mentorship. I knew I really wanted that guidance. I knew I wanted people to bounce ideas off of. I knew I wanted to rely on somebody else's experience when I didn't have it for pretty complex patient cases. That was a really big thing for me. And the Emory program has a really good unstructured and structured mentorship program. So I've got on the spot mentorship from my main mentor who sees me at 7 a.m. sharp when I'm struggling to stay awake and, 7 p.m. when I'm struggling to stay awake. And then I've got my structured mentorship where, my program director comes in and she'll walk me through some things and we'll go through cases together. And then I also wanted to stay close to home for financial reasons mainly. And I had been so far from home that I knew I needed the family support for this part of my learning. So, in addition to working full time at a very high volume, mainly sports population clinic, I'm also participating in ACL reconstruction research with two Emory professors. That's been awesome. And so we spent a lot of time in the movement analysis lab, and it's been really cool to learn the system and to learn how to process data. I've also had an opportunity to shadow and work with the Peak Performance Project, which is more of a strength and conditioning based facility that's right next door. So they work with a lot of pro athletes, which has been really cool. The most important thing for me was to speak to as many people as I could about residency programs, from as many residency programs as I could get access to, because everybody had a completely different perspective. And when you choose a residency, it's going to be very personal to you. So, it's easy to fall into the pressure of wanting to go to a big name school because you think it's going to carry a lot of weight for when you're applying for jobs, but really, really look into what the program offers, how other people's experiences were, what they got out of it, and then relate that back to what your personal goals are, to help you really decide on a place that you want to spend a decent chunk of time at. You are interviewing the program as much as they are interviewing you. Ask questions. Anything that you are wondering, ask it. See if it's a good fit before you make a final decision on where you want to go, and just be yourself. I mean, they're going to be spending a lot of time with you. So if you're trying to portray yourself as one way during the interview, and then you end up spending a year and a half with them or 2 years with them, they're going to find out who you really are. So just totally be yourself. And I'm sure they're going to love you wherever you decide to go. My clinical expertise has skyrocketed since I started residency. Well, I was just bombarded with information and bombarded with patients. Like, we see patients on the half hour, so it's just constant flow. And so I was incredibly overwhelmed to begin with, and I was just trying to stay afloat. So now that I've found a rhythm, and now that I've had the reps, and now that I've seen things over and over and over again, and I've talked about the same things over and over and over again, and I've seen really complex, rare cases. They make the typical cases way less scary. My clinical expertise is vastly different, and everything is much more organized, and I'm much more confident because I've seen things before. And that was what I really wanted out of a high volume clinic in a residency setting, were the reps, because it's kind of like an accelerated experience, kind of like cheating. Instead of doing 2 years on your own, you've got 8-10 months with a little bit of guidance and twice as many patients. And so I feel like I've been able to catch up a little. So it's been a lot, but I can't believe I've made it to this side of it. It felt so far away. And now that I'm here and I'm able to get my notes done in the clinic before I leave, it's been awesome. I had kind of a unique perspective going into PT school. I was never a patient in what we call like the PT mills, where it was very high volume. I had always worked one-on-one with a physical therapist as a patient. And so that was my perspective going into PT school. And I think the kind of mill style was more of the norm at that time. And that was in what, 2016 ish? Yeah. I think the private practice kind of realm is expanding, which is really exciting because I feel like that's going to make PT more accessible to people. Even now, I'm still like trying to figure out how insurance is like helping everyone when I'm in the clinic, and like, the battles we go through with trying to get patients in for visits they really need. Well, I think that private practice really is expanding. And I'm excited for it. So I plan to go to a private practice after I finish residency, and I'm not sure what additional things I will be doing with that. I thought I always have like a 5 or 10 year plan worked out. And honestly, during residency, I've realized that I don't know what's going to happen. But that's the idea, to go into private practice, use everything that I've learned to help my patients get better. Owning my own practice has always been a dream. I don't know how soon or how far away that's going to happen. Um, but one of the main purposes of that is so that I can afford to offer free services. Something that I've always wanted, that I've always dreamt of, is being able to offer pro bono services to underserved athletes, high school athletes who are looking to play in college, who've, gotten injured and they don't have access to good physical therapy so that they can fully recover and continue to pursue athletic scholarships. For some kids, it's an athletic scholarship, full ride, or they don't go to college at all. And so, an injury, doing something that they love, could ruin many future opportunities for them if they don't have the right care and guidance. So I think it's really important to have services like that. And I would love to be able to do that at some point in my career, once the other financial piece is set up. Diversity is important in the PT industry because patients need someone who understands them and can relate to them. Because, and the research shows this, patients who aren't comfortable with their healthcare providers or don't trust their healthcare providers don't get better. The therapeutic alliance that we create with our patients is a really big part of their recovery. The patients that I have really awesome relationships with, they get better really fast. And the patients who, I've struggled to build relationships with, it takes longer for me to help them get better. And that's across the board. So that's important in the patient care setting. And then in the educational setting, it's a vicious cycle. We need more physical therapists of color, but students of color who are in physical therapy school don't always feel supported. And there's many barriers to, staying in PT school, like going on clinical rotations for some programs to a full year of unpaid 40 plus hour work as a student. A lot of people can't afford to do that. There needs to be support systems built for students of color, and having diverse staff in your programs is one way to do that. Being a Rising Tide Scholar is an incredible honor. It feels really awesome to have this support system, at my back while I'm doing this residency and putting my all into it. For me, that title means that I have a responsibility to continue to uplift everyone else around me while I continue to pursue my goals. And that's something that I've always strived to do, especially in PT school. And when I discovered this scholarship, I almost couldn't believe that it existed because it, like, just the description of it was perfect. And again, it's a great honor to have received it. And I'm just going to continue to to do my best to represent it in the best way possible.